Welcome to Unsuccessful. We're your hosts, Jen.
And I'm Brandy, and this is the podcast where we admit out loud
that we suck.
So if life has ever felt like a dumpster fire,
you're in the right place.
Well, let's get into it.
This week on Unsuccessful, we're going deep, and we mean deep. We're joined by our good friends, Rob and Gary from the Journeymen Collective, and trust us when we say this isn't your average business convo. They're the guides behind expertly curated psilocybin retreat experiences. Say that again. Designed for entrepreneurs, executives, and visionaries who are ready to crack open the layers and awaken their deep purpose. We talk about what it means to surrender during sucky seasons, how grief and breakdowns can become portals to transformation, and why the next version of your success might require a totally different level of consciousness. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're going there. And we can't wait for you to come along with us. Buckle up, babes. It's about to get beautifully uncomfortable. What did you hear?
You guys read each other's minds, hey?
I put words in his mouth.
Yeah, okay. I hear it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
can roll my eyes really hard.
Yeah, totally. You got a mug for that also.
This week on Unsuccessful, we are here with Gary Logan and Rob Grover, two amazing friends of mine. It's been almost 6 years since we met in Toronto at the Bob Proctor Matrix. Yeah. And I must say, these guys have been with me through some really shitty times, very sucky times. They're actually the ones that if I'm having like a total emotional breakdown and Nick's like on wit's end, he will message them.
I'm Rob Grover.
I'm Gary Logan.
And we are the Journeymen Collective. We founded this company about 6.5 years ago. And what is the Journeymen Collective? We guide executives, entrepreneurs, movers, shakers, high achievers, actors, athletes, you name it, through transformative, psychedelic, guided journeys so that you can shift your shit out of the way. Clear out the baggage of yesterday, yesteryear, yesterdecade, so that you can truly get on with life in a calm, centered, peaceful, content, prosperous way. We're all about helping people build visionary realities in that it's like, what is the most audacious reality that you want to create for yourself? And then as a function of that, there's going to be all these things that come up. Limiting beliefs, old energy, childhood drama and trauma. And so we equipped people with tools so that you can process that for the rest of your years and learn from the journey, the psychedelic journey with magic mushrooms. So it's a tool as well. Yeah, we teach people how to touch back into those experiences and not just have them as a fleeting moment in time, but something that you can revisit and remember and bring that learning into your life, that understanding into your life, love, and your business.
So, yeah, it's pretty magical. So I want to know, Jen, okay, so you guys met, and how did you meet? What happened when you met? I want to hear about it.
It's crazy. So, okay. Yeah, I love this story. Gary came in later in the night, right, Gary? You rode in.
Exactly. On my horse.
Rob and I, the beautiful thing about the event that we were at is it's so based on energy. Like there's no seating arrangement, who you end up sitting by. It's just, divine intervention happening. And I was coming down into the lobby after our first day, and Rob, I think I was sitting in the lobby actually. Can't exactly remember. And Rob walked in with his hat on. He has a brilliant hat. And we were just sitting in a circle chatting, and he was sitting across from me on a chair in the lobby of this hotel. And we were talking with everyone, and Rob was telling, I don't even know if he was directly telling me, but directly telling someone what he did. And basically you said, you help people find their purpose on this planet. And it was as simple as that. And I was like, excuse me? I would like to know my purpose on this planet.
You did.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Rob said, okay, you need to open up your throat chakra. And I was like, huh, that's so funny. I think I might have been talking about how I get like pain in my neck or something like that. And he said, it's your throat chakra and you have to clear it. And I was like, okay. He goes, I can do it right now if you want. I'm like, okay. So we were sitting there and we have like 10 witnesses, whether they remember or not. And Rob starts from sitting across the room working the energy and the energy around my neck and around my throat chakra. And he's just like, sit grounded and do this. So I'm relaxing. I'd meditated. I know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the sudden, it got hot, like fire from my chin down, rushed down to my toes, flipped back up, and was like, and it was just like gone. The experience, my whole body, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. My whole body started like tingling. Mm-hmm. And I looked at Rob and I burst out laughing because I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And that was it.
Sold.
I was like,
reel her in.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually Gary, and he was behind me the whole time. I didn't even know. I'm just kidding. It wasn't. It wasn't. Gary wasn't there yet. But and then after that, every day, Rob and we'd go sit down in the conference and haven't talked, and we'd just turn and we'd be right there from each other. It was always just like, turn, oh hey, like right there in direct eyesight of each other. So it was the beginning of a fabulous relationship. Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, connection.
Connection, exactly. And like I said, Gary came in later, and we realized, we knew right away. Everyone knew how fabulous they were, and you guys have been able to help a lot of people from there.
So how did you guys start? I want to hear that. Like, how did this come about?
It came from a really sucky situation.
Good.
So unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. And
even the shaman
sometimes.
Even the shamans suck. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like, again, the Journeymen Collective was built on like 40 plus years of Gary's mind body conscious awareness training, 20 plus years of mine, and as luck would have it, we call them detours. I was in corporate, and all of a sudden there was a detour where it's like, you are no longer required to be in corporate. And I was like, what? And so I started my own coaching practice, was in that for a few years, and was like, I'm still not quite in the pocket of like where I really want to be. And Gary's mom lived with us for 3.5 years, which is a whole another podcast.
Called Living with Relatives from Hell.
Living with your mother-in-law. So
welcome to the family.
Yeah. There's an exercise in familial paradigms. So yeah, total another topic. But basically, 3.5 years. Again, it was a grand design. Even the house we found was like, there was a grand design to that as well, that allowed all of us to live together. She had the top floor of our house had 4 bedrooms. It was a long, narrow house. Our bedroom was on one end, her bedroom was on the other, and there was a hallway in between. We had to walk down that hallway in order to walk downstairs every day and see her bedroom. And 3.5 years in, she decided to exit stage left, and she transitioned and passed away very suddenly. And we'd wake up every day, and it's like, holy shit, life is really short. We are here today, poof, you're gone tomorrow. And grief, depression, anxiety for Gary set in, grief and depression set in for me. And we had all these tools, and nothing could break through it. And it was like there was a gray cloud of like just suckiness of like all these different energies that was just clouding our vision, clouding like, how do we break through? How do we, like, this absolutely sucks.
We sort of lost direction on our path on what we were supposed to do in the world. And with this departure of my mother, brought in this beautiful being into our life who spoke to Robert about a journey that she went with a shaman just off of Vancouver island, and it was with magic mushrooms. And Robert at first sort of scoffed. I've done mushrooms in university, the same old thing, and kept coming up in his visions and his in her conversation. And eventually he says, perhaps I should look into it. So he did, had a conversation with the shaman, and next thing you know, guess what, Gary? I'm going on a shamanic journey, and it's happening in April. And I went, great, you go do you, and I'll do me. So I was like, I don't need this. I can handle what I need to do. When he came home, quite the change. He was happier, more, I think, stable, in alignment, balanced, calm. Depression and grief had subsided. They didn't have a hold on him anymore. And I thought, well, if mushrooms can do this for you, well, maybe I need to shift some of my shit to move forward in my life. So I spoke to the shaman and booked in my journey with him. And it happened to be on the day after my mom's birthday, which was May 5th, which we spread her ashes. And then the next day was May 6th, my birthday. And I always say it was the best birthday gift one could ever give oneself.
Wow.
Things changed and shifted. And I had visions to say that this was the path that we're supposed to be on. And Robert says, I had similar. And I went, what does it look like? Where do we go? Who's done this before?
And I think part of the initial conversation that Jen and I had about like the suck part of this is that as we've landed in the pocket of like what we're here to do, our mission, our calling, and it's like it is resolute, it is unwavering, there is like no thing on the planet that will like pop us out of this, that this is what we're here to do, this is a legacy that we're here to leave. And it's going to cascade through many, many future generations. And one of the big things that has been happening is that people are attracted to what we do. And they're attracted to who we are. And then the challenging part comes is that we've done the deep dive work and we've done the excavation of self in many, many different ways. And the light agitates the dark. It agitates the shadows in others. And then if the people aren't able to hold their center and deal with their own shite, then magnetism, the law of magnetism, takes place where it's like, I'm attracted to you. What do you do? Who are you? I must know you. I must like come into this work and I'm going to be with you for the rest of your life. I'm going to be part of your company for the rest of your life. And then what happens, stuff comes up, and if you can't hold your center, boing, repulsion, the law of magnetism inverts, and then there's the individual is repelled out of one's life. So it takes a unique individual to be part of our world, to be part of our company, and it's happened over the last 6.5 years. It's happened a lot where people have shown up to say, I am with you. Like, I'm going to help you build this vision. I'm going to help you build centers all over the world. And then one little hair trigger gets pulled and boing. So it's been challenging to find the people that are resolute with the mission that we're here to bring forward. And we know as well that those that are truly in the pocket of what we're here to bring forward will show up and they'll stay with us. So it's all just a learning process. But it sucks at times too when you pour yourself into people and you start developing them and you start training them, and then a year goes by and you've poured your heart and soul into them, and then all of a sudden just boom, out. And most of the time we're there like, we're here to support you through this. And then people just can't hold that professional center within self.
It's interesting. We talk a lot about, well, yesterday, I guess, even I was talking to someone about how the people around you, how you are really the only one that has that vision in your company and for your life.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about when you are trying to build a team or have more people come into that, it's so hard. Like they have to learn how to form their own vision, but yet if it's a part of yours too, then that's where the magic happens. I think holding true to your own mission is the most important, and being okay with people coming and going, right? Because if they come and go, God, that is some of the worst parts, but yet at the same time the best parts, right? Because you don't know that you didn't need them anymore, and because you guys are always growing. And that's the beautiful thing.
And I think for you guys, you've done obviously you've done so much work. So we're talking about this, and your perspective on this is just from such a different level. Like you're able to hold that space of sucking. Like you're able to say you're so connected to your why and your mission, and like just you are so connected there that yes, it sucks, but you're not holding on to it. It's not attaching to yourself. I can't remember, you guys used a word there that I really liked, but it's not pulling you down, right? Whereas I think that's where a lot of people just get really like in their heads, oh, well, it must be me, I suck, right? Or on the flip side, that arrogance, well, it must be them, they suck. Right?
Or it's actually just making space for the aligned people to drop in.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it is that perspective and shift. I like that. Yeah.
And that's exactly like there was a scenario about a year ago where someone like left very abruptly, very quickly, and it's like, wow, like what the heck? Like, and then immediately someone else in our network is like, I just got the ping that I'm supposed to work with the Journeymen Collective. And it's like, excellent. Let's explore that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I have a question for you, because I don't think we've actually talked so much about what happened when your mom crossed over, Gary. And we've talked about my experience with it. I was at Brandy's house the day before my dad, the day of, basically. The day of when my dad passed. And you guys were with me through that transition afterwards. We did an episode based on what I dealt with, but how would you describe to people, and I know we don't want to dwell in it very much and we don't want to bring it all up, but I think it's important to put it into terms that our listeners could understand, because it's something so many people go through. And I think it can either, like Brandy said, these things can either drag us down, or you can realize afterwards how the dots connected and who you need to become. So, yeah.
Yeah, the grief and depression. I had a little bit of grief, like not over the top, many years ago when I moved countries. I came back to Canada after living away for a number of years. So there's the grief of that. So I did experience some grief. And funny enough, I found a CD from Yanni, of all things. So I didn't know who Yanni was, but my roommate, she played it all the time, and I would go into meditation and cry. There was something in that music that made me get through it. So when this depression, which is stronger because you've lost your family member than leaving a country, was very heavy. I felt very heavy and unmotivated. And I thought, okay, so what's going on here?
Would you say you're a bit lost?
Lost and confused on direction. It's like, what do we do now? It was like we were the caregivers for our mother. We'll call her our mother. And I would get anxiety watching these TV shows. It's like, what is this? Heart palpitations and breathing and, warming up, and the body's getting all warm and then cold. It's like, what is going on? And so when it came down to being introduced to this beautiful being that came into our life and saw the transition in Robert, I thought, well, maybe this will lift. And maybe not. It did. It really went. I went in going, yes, I'm going to shift.
And the other thing with that, pulling that back a little bit, was that when we met this little individual, and she is a wee, she's like maybe 5'2", and one of the things she did say was like, I think you guys might be experiencing grief and depression at like a different level, and like it might benefit you to go on this thing known as a journey. And I kind of just like raised my eyebrow, like, what, mushrooms? Like, I've done that before. I've done that in university. That was a trip. That was a personal use trip to have fun with my friends. And then the intention that I set for this journey was to explore my spiritual gifts. And again, like, I know that this individual was brought into our lives. Like, she was another individual who came into our life and left very quickly. And it was like, oh, she was there just to like point us in the right direction, just like that. And then even with Gary's mom, like about 3 weeks before she passed, she had health issues. However, everything was sort of in a stasis, and she was in improving health. And a few weeks before she passed, she, and I'll also say her higher self, came through with a message to say, I am just in the way here. And
Wow.
I was just like, what the frick are you talking about? Like, we are pouring everything in our beings to help you live a healthy, non-pharmaceutically dependent life. And it was just like, what do you mean? Like, that's absolute BS. However, when we really pull back and look at that, she was in the way. So there's a part of her that knew, and that upon her departure, it actually allowed us to step forward into what we're doing now. If she hadn't departed,
we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be in the pocket of our soul doing the soul mission work that we're here to do. And so she did speak truth that day, whether or not we liked it or not.
Yeah, we as humans don't like to hear that kind of thing, but
Yeah. It's so interesting to me because, like, I know for myself, I've been through a real depression and like hitting like that rock bottom. And and it's always so funny because you always hear about rock bottom, and you always wonder, like, when is that rock bottom? Like, what is that rock bottom? Or, I thought I hit rock bottom over here, and then maybe you until you actually hit it, you don't really realize it. And it's so, I hate the idea of like, you almost that has to happen for you to open up like that crack, that light, that whatever. And I hate that has to happen. But yet it just seems like it has to happen. I don't know, to be able to kind of get there. I've just experienced this in my own life and just seeing other people's, really when it matters, like the stuff that really matters really just shines out of hitting rock bottom.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the rock bottom happens when we're tired, we're sick and tired of being the person that we have become. And it's like this big wet weighted blanket that's like encased us in these ideas of who we think we are. Like, I went to university, I got 2 degrees, I was working in corporate, and I was told this is what you do. You go and do this thing known as university. I did it well.
That's me.
I did it so well that it's like, yeah, let's do more of it.
Yeah.
And then go to this corporate life that you're told that once you've been there, once you've walked into Bankers Hall in Calgary, Alberta, and you go up to the 29th floor, office 29011 was my first office, and I was like, now you've made it. And I looked at the 4 walls and I was like, what the frick, this can't be it. I'm going to be here
Oh,
for the rest of my
yep.
life.
Yeah. Rob, we have very similar story.
Yeah. And then as a function of that, there's a, like that weighted blanket that was around me. Like all those ideas were making me sick.
Hmm.
And then I had to get rid of them slowly but surely, get rid of them, which is a challenging process because our culture sucks in truly educating people of like, how do I deal with this mental emotional toil that's moving through? How do I get rid of this old identity that no longer serves me, that I thought I was going to live into for the next, like, until Freedom 65 set in? Then I can go do the things that I really want to do. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, no, this is really going to suck if I stay.
So if you're not in Freedom 65 mode between university and 65, what are you in?
Exactly. And doesn't it's so jarring then when you have someone disappear physically off
Mm-hmm.
this planet right in front of you unexpectedly. And then you're like,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
It's such an identity shift. I mean, we like when the depression, when the rock bottom, it's this huge like identity shift is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The why, all these feelings come up. And I think, and I think death is such a huge part of that. I know Jen and I both talked about obviously her dad, my cousin, however many years ago. So it just really puts things into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. When mom died, when mom passed, when she transitioned, how do you prefer? What were you doing for work at that point in time? Because I know your background story, but for both of you, like Rob first, what were you doing then? Was that when you were already transitioning out?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so the death of corporate Rob had to take place. That
Mm-hmm.
happened in about 2015. Started my own coaching practice, started like coalescing all the different courses, all the different trainings that I'd been like taking. And Gary, like ever since we've been together, he's like, why are you taking another course? Why are you taking another program? Why are you taking... And it was all for what we're doing now. So
Yeah.
even me starting my own
Interesting.
coaching practice. So I was like a mindset career coach for people. Then it slowly transitioned into more of like a spiritual healer, and worked with people from like all around the world. And then even that, I was like, there's still something missing. I'm not quite in the pocket of where I want to be. And yeah, then 2017 rolled around. We got married in August of 2017. November 2017, Gary's mom passed away. Everything shifted. It's like this centrifugal, like, vacuum just like started spitting people out of our lives. And then for you,
I was still teaching. I still am an Alexander Technique teacher, so I was working from home. And at the same time, I was a dog walker, and I was walking in the forest 4 days a week, for a number of years. So again, what direction were we going? At the moment when my mother passed, that sort of changed directions on where we're going in the path that we're supposed to lead. So still work with the Alexander Technique, which is part of our program. And I still teach one-on-one sessions, but that's what I was doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for me too, like my transition started before, well, kind of before Dad died, I think. And then it was almost like when I was in the thick of it, that's what you guys saw that in the thick of it, and it had a lot to do with my second journey. So I've been on 2 journeys with them. Nick and I went the first time, and then I went on my own. But everything that they're saying, everything that you guys are saying is exactly like the cloudiness. It was really like there was no vision. for the future. And I see pictures in my head. I know, like, my parents always used to say, you always knew exactly where you were going and you had a plan of exactly how to get there. And there was nothing. It was like looking out the back window on the foggiest day and not being able to see across the street. And after my journey, it got worse. After my journey, it was like, I thought it was so uncomfortable for the year after Dad passed. And then I went to the journey and it was incredibly eye-opening, but it was almost like it was that extra, I guess, plunge towards rock bottom after, because it was like waking up in an entirely different world and then going, okay, this isn't clearer. But what unfolded after that was an incredible transformation. And I know my perspective of the world is completely different because of it. So do you guys say, when we talk about rock bottom, as Brandy was saying that, as you guys were talking about it, would you say that you like help people get there faster?
Yes. See, and I was going to say this. Yes, I like it.
Get there faster so you can move
Because I'm
forward
almost
faster.
thinking, like, if you didn't do that, Jen, the
Oh.
pain, even though it was like a year and it was hard, whatever, like, I'm just thinking, if you didn't do that, how much, more longer in years and pain, you know what I mean? And good things do take time. And then, yes, you got to hit rock bottom. That's kind of where I was thinking too. So anyway.
The journey stirs up the mud at the bottom of the pond. So then mushrooms, mushrooms. Yeah, magic mushrooms help you decompose that which is no longer necessary in your life. That's what they do in nature. They're the leaves, everything, and the leaves keep falling, and then the fungi go to work and they decompose that which is no longer necessary, spreads it out energetically for the next phase of growth. And after the journey, that's why we give you the tools to keep working with it and processing it, so that it's like, oh, I'm tilling the soil of my soul. And it might be a little bit dirty and confusing, but then it's like questions, asking self-contemplative, reflective questions of like, what is this confusion trying to teach me? What is this irritation, agitation trying to teach me? What am I to create with it? So it just stretches your bandwidth to deal with the unknown. And then chances are the next rock bottom is going to be deeper, wider. But then, yeah, exactly. But then, because like, the hard truth about one thing that I've been contemplating lately is that no one makes it out of here alive.
Yeah.
No one makes it out of this life alive. So how about we learn to do the work?
Yeah.
Which might suck, to look at some of the deeper, darker aspects of self. And then as a function of that, once you've learned how to till that soil, then you can garner, you can...
Hello.
Exactly.
Bob's here.
The puppy has helped.
Emotional support animal.
Yes.
Totally. So it's that it brings the light at the end of the tunnel, and then it's like, oh, I actually had to go through that so I would have greater clarity.
Yeah.
And
What's the biggest what you've heard, whether like unsaid or actually said, biggest barrier in people going on a journey? What are the hesitations?
Fear.
Yeah. Okay.
Fear of who am I going to be when I come through to the other side? I have no idea. I have no concept of what this journey thing is. Are you going to dance around with sticks and goat sacrifices and like blood? No.
I mean, we could if you want us to, but no.
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
We don't chant. We don't dance. We don't bang on drums. There are places that you can go to do that. But it's it's the fear of the unknown. Our culture has ripped out these sacred moments. We have these things known as graduation when we're 5 and when we're 10 and when we're 16 and whatever. We actually need initiations to be brought back into our lives. And that's what a journey is. Like this past weekend when we were facilitating a journey, the client was like, that was really hard. That was probably like one of the hardest things I've done in my life. And one woman even said a couple of weeks ago, she said, I gave birth and my labor was 51 hours. This was more challenging than that 51-hour birth. And so people are afraid of the challenge.
So if you look at fear this way, so I was a big brother for a number of years, and I took my little buddy to an amusement park, and he would suss out the rides to find at the beginning and the end. So he would say, oh, this is what goes on, this is what happens, and this is the end result. So I know what this journey is going to be like on this ride. He went on one ride that he thought he knew the process, but this ride changed up on him, and the look on his face was like, oh, this was unexpected. Expect this to go like a journey. You're on a roller coaster. You sort of know what the end is, and the beginning, but you don't know what's going to go on in between. And other than
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So look at it that way. The fear comes up because we don't know what's going to happen, and we like to see the whole picture before we step forward into something that is unknown, unfamiliar, and could be very challenging.
I find people are really afraid to do the work. And when I say the work, they're really afraid to go back because, well, Nick, for example, he really doesn't remember a lot. He doesn't remember dreams. He says he doesn't remember a lot of his childhood. He doesn't even necessarily remember a lot from the journey. I know it did change, it changed his perspective on things. It was so great for that connection for us. But I mean, actually, he didn't even talk about that again. That'd be a good, we should put him on the next podcast.
Sure.
See how his journey was. But I have we have a mutual friend who was terrified of doing the work. He's starting to do it now a little bit more, but the fear, he said, it's too hard. He'd rather just live in the pain of today than dealing with the trauma of yesterday.
And what's interesting about him is that I wouldn't say though that he's not a lazy person, and he's not
Very ambitious.
and he's super ambitious, and he's not afraid of hard in other ways. And I don't know if that's just masking or what that is, but
It's masking.
but that I just want to say that because it's so interesting how people will choose, other hards, right? And at what point, I'm curious too, it's all about like timing. At what point did he choose that this wasn't working for him anymore? And I'm always curious, like, what was that? What was that rock bottom moment?
He had a baseball bat too. He got a big,
Did he get a
soaking wet blanket tossed on him. When you said that the first time, you're going to see me laugh because I just pictured this like literal, and going like poof to Brandy and then covering her, and like just the feeling of what that soaking wet heavy blanket would feel like.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's for that individual, it is masking. And the thing is, it's like that pain that he's experiencing every day is going to create inflammation and disease in the body, which he can actually avoid that. Because long term, it's probably going to land up in his bones or arthritis or some weird issue.
Yeah, and it already had. Yeah. And so part of his healing journey was going through some major health things too. So if you're listening, you know who you are. We love you.
So yeah, for that individual, it doesn't have to suck that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm even thinking about a client that we worked with like last year, and he was like, I've had a very prosperous, very abundant life, and I've only known happiness twice in my life.
Wow.
Then he came through the journey and poof, depression gone, anxiety, poof, gone. And then it's like that created this touchstone for him to be like, oh, anytime that I start to feel that, I can revisit and remember what I learned on the journey. And you get to carry that forward with you for the rest of your life.
Look at it this way. Would you rather do 10 years of therapy, keep rip opening the Band-Aid, go over and over and tell the story?
Pour some salt in the
on
wound.
it, you'll feel fine after you leave and then come back. Your stories are still looping in your head.
Yeah.
Or would you rather come on a 4-day experience with the Journeymen Collective and deal with it immediately?
Yeah.
Most of it comes up, but we're unsure what is going to reveal itself. As Jen knows, surprise! Oh, I didn't know that was going to come up. And it is what it is in the moment. And we work through it. We work through it together. You're not alone.
Yeah. And like a recent client as well, she's like, I have worked for the last 15 years on this. I've gone to therapy. I've gone to the couples counseling and all these other things. And she said, I've never been able to like get into this thing known as my heart. And one journey with us, and she's like, oh my gosh, like childhood trauma and drama, poof, gone. Still gonna probably come up to some extent in some different ways, but all the patterning of like protecting oneself is probably gonna like dissolve away. Being in defensive mode, probably gonna dissolve away, or be aware of when it does come up. And it's like, oh, there I go again, tensing up my body, getting ready for the fight. And then as a consequence of that all falling away, she's able to access her heart, and everything's going to change from that day forward. And then that's going to impact her children, which will then impact the children's children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not just for you.
Yeah, it's like an electric cord. Like how thick is the electric cord of that story of your life that you're telling? And how many times have you told it? And it feeds it even more, so it gets really strong, that electric cord. Through the journey process, you look at it, you decompose.
Yeah.
Decompose?
Decompose.
Decompose. Decompose.
There we go.
Okay, and then you rip it away, and all you need is a thin line of connection to it if you want to maintain the connection to it. But the pull back to the story is less than more. You know, it has lessened completely.
It's all about the stories that we tell ourselves. And like one of the big aha moments that even I had recently, where it's like, what is the story? Telling a story of infinite possibilities that I can live into, or is it telling a story of limitation and bullshit that I'm just repeating some old record in my mind that I'm believing is true? Or am I expressing something in the world of creation that is going to fuel the next stage of my life, my love, my business? Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow. And either we're living into that infinite possibility or limitation. One or the other. It's that simple.
So that brings me to a question then. What does success mean for you guys? Or like, and if you guys could explain this individually, like what does success mean to you, Rob and Gary?
Well, in the real world, I've made it. And I would go, what have you made?
This is a question for you.
I know, but it's like I get the listener to think is like, okay, it's like I made it. I've got everything I need. And he went, really now? So we hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs that are highly successful. I've made it. I've got everything that I want, but I don't have X, Y, and Z. And they don't know what the X, Y, and Z is. So you're constantly succeeding in life moment to moment. Every day is successful because you're alive and you're doing what you love.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. For me, I would say that I'm in it right now. And the next phase of it is batshit scary crazy, because it's been dropping in like what the next phase of the Journeymen Collective is. And it again, I just see pictures, images in my mind, and right in this moment, I'm reminded of one of our clients set up in the journey, and she looks at me and she's like, "Your calling, oh my gosh, your calling! Like, wow, your calling, like your calling is so amazing, so brilliant. What you get to do with and for people, and who you get to be for and with people." And it's like, yeah, I've answered the call. I'm going to continue answering the call. Is it going to be challenging? Absolutely. Are there going to be moments that are physically, mentally, emotionally challenging as fuck? Absolutely. And that's the scary part of like, oh, like I know what it's taken for this whole entire being, the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, to get to where we're at now. And that next like iteration, it's like, oh dear Lord. However, I think zooming out even further is leaving the legacy of that calling behind when I'm no longer here. And I think that's the success of like knowing that the work that we're doing is going to be impacting families and generations to come for like the rest, for as long as humanity is on the planet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like it sounds like to me too, it's just like the success is in the journey too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like being success and the alignment.
Yeah.
Both journeys, all journeys.
Yeah.
And it's life is a journey.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think this is circling all the way back to like even part of what, like what Bob Proctor has taught us is that if there's a service that the world requires of you, then that will be shown if you're willing to take up that. I call it like soul mission. Bob would call it something different. But essentially, it's like if you're offering an empowered service to the world, then you will be rewarded handsomely for your efforts. And there is effort, but at the same time, it flows. It's fluid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
We were asked what the goal of the podcast was. And I was like, of course, I think every entrepreneur starts a podcast because like ultimately you want to generate more business in some standpoint. You want to be able to monetize it somehow, right? But as soon as I saw what's the goal, my goal, and we've talked about this before, is like, we just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And we're kind of at the point where it's like, we have all these other things going on and they're hard sometimes. And to be able to like, this has been a lot of time and energy to put into it. And, you know, every week when we do recordings, I say to Brandy, I'm like, it's a lot of work, but I'm having a ton of fun and I'm excited to do it. And we're not trying to monetize really anything right now. We're trying to, we just wanted to do something where we showed up, had great conversations, because we do that anyway, spend more time with each other. And I think that's that like soul work. So what comes of it?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
more
I have
fun.
a question. Exactly. More fun.
More fun. What's the question?
How do you feel? Like, how does your body feel sitting here talking with the Journeymen Collective?
I love it. I'm absorbing it. I'm just like absorbing all of the information.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. No, I was just wondering how you're feeling.
like, oh
Like,
God,
do you feel calm? Do you feel like, how does your body feel?
I feel excited. I feel excited. I want to go on a journey. I want to do 4 days of work and get it done with. I like pain.
Be careful what you wish for.
The journey will be painful.
Yeah.
I often say I often say that like I choose the hard. I choose it. Like I tend to choose it. That's an issue in itself, but
That's a podcast for another
Yeah,
day.
no kidding. What if it was easy?
Yeah.
And that's been like kind of like that's the thing, like let's make it easy. And I'm and I'm doing some new ventures and things, and I'm really like, okay, well that was easy. Like I'm very attuned with how am I feeling right now with this. Okay, well this is flowing and that's actually really easy, and okay, I should just lean into that. It's easy. Okay, that's easy. I just keep going. Because Rob, it's kind of funny you say like, constantly like going for the next thing, new courses, this and that and that. And that was like always like, I'm always that kind of person. And what's the hardest thing I can do just to like prove that I can do it, and why?
Yeah.
For whose benefit?
Exactly, for
Yeah.
whose benefit. And it's
Yeah.
like, is that benefiting me now? Right. And so, yeah. Anyway, it's a self-awareness, but no, I feel good. I'm feeling happy. I hope our listeners are feeling good too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I always feel very grounded. Well, except when I'm not grounded. And then Gary's like, ground. And then
Planet Earth.
Gary's grounding. Yeah.
He was given the nickname
Velvet
Gary-
Hammer.
The Velvet Hammer. I've heard you say this before, but I can't remember why.
well,
The
it's all
soft
soft
touch.
and cuddly, but then sometimes the hammer gets thrown down and or like the truth just cuts through the bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Damn it, Gary. Gary the Velvet Hammer. So as we were sitting here, I was there was something that happened in my first journey. But both of my journeys were similar. And if you're like, well, if this clears up all of your stuff in your life, why do you have to go on another journey?
Yeah.
If anyone's wondering that. For me, both times when I went, it was 5 years apart, I think, right? Almost like it was a month, 5 years and 1 month apart. And two very big things were happening in life. But they were both of my journeys were very related to masculine energy. And it was almost like the first journey was an introduction to that. And we had a lot to work through as far as saying goodbye to some little baby spirits where I'd had miscarriages, which was incredible.
Wow.
I had a vision of a tiny home. Like it was when we were still in this growth phase of Teacup and what was going on. And I literally had this vision of this tiny home going into this little tiny small thing here. And what I got from that was, it's so small. This thing that we think is so big is actually so small. And as you guys were saying something, and that vision came back to me. And that's the cool thing about your journey is that it may not connect right now. It may not connect then. Like what happens in your journeys is going to continue to make these little micro connections for the rest of your life.
Well, it's like rewiring the subconscious. That's kind of essentially what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a physical
You just look like Hobbs, Gare.
on a physical level, what's happening is the brain, new neurons are being generated, so neurogenesis is happening. But then awareness, it's going to vary for every single individual, but the awareness of who you are moment by moment in life will start to be shown to you more easily. And then you're given like door number 1, door number 2. Door number 1, freedom. Door number 2, victimization. Which door am I moving through in every single moment of my life? And so it's clearing out the neurology and the fascia of the human body as well. So the fascia is like the electrical circuitry of your whole entire being. Then you, from the work that we do, you also learn how to carry that forward with the Alexander technique, with meditation. And so there's a clearing out of the old. There's a deeper connection with self, which you also get to carry that forward as well. So you get to deepen that awareness. And then your perception shifts, because now that the part of, or the whole entire wet blanket has been released, now your perception of what you're seeing, you're no longer looking through all that old shite, which will skew your vision, your perception, because that dark cloud of energy was in the way of you truly seeing what was there. And then when your husband says something, you're not like, what did you just say? What do you mean by that? Versus like, stop, breathe. Oh, he actually just like offered to make me dinner. He didn't actually say that I was incompetent and that I wasn't able to make dinner for everyone and feed the family that I've been rearing. So, and then you just get to take that with you, and you start to be able to process and learn how to move with your own unconscious patterns that are percolating up to the surface and asking those deeper questions. And a lot of the time, like, we often tell people, you're going to stop saying you, pointing at your spouse, pointing at your colleague, you're being such and such, or you're doing such and such, because typically it all has to do with what you're perceiving. It has nothing to do with what the other person is actually doing. So there's a self-responsibility that takes place where you start to really learn how to transmute or shift the energy of the old patterns that no longer serve you.
Yeah.
So just a little something.
Yeah. That in your back pocket.
Yeah.
It's like when you point the finger, there's one finger pointing forward, but there's three pointing back at you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. It's like I tell the story often, and it's fictitious. Rob's in the office doing work, trying to get something to work on the computer connected to the business, and it's not working, and I get frustrated. Then I go to the kitchen, and Gary's preparing a lovely meal for dinner, and he says something, and I like go off the rails and lose my temper with him, and he's like, whoa, like, what's happening here? Or then he matches my energy and gets frustrated with me. Neither of those have to take place if I just give myself a hot minute before walking into the kitchen and just being like, oh, okay, well, the frustration's there, which is key, because frustration also tells you you're this close. If you stick with it, stay in the frustration of it, the breakthrough is very near. So I actually have learned to love frustration and not dish it out to somebody else, but to keep it within self and start to process it and ask it questions. And then new ideas form. New ideas come through by asking the frustration questions. And the solution reveals itself, as opposed to walking into the kitchen and creating mayhem.
I like that.
Yeah. I agree. I've always noticed that with frustration, obviously over the years, recognizing that, but it's still there. And there's like different levels of frustration, right? I know in my life, I've had like 2 years of frustration. That's hard. Like when it's like a longer,
Period.
like the patience, like there's a longer period.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's taught me the patience, but that's where it's like, okay, yes, I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. That frustration. I know there's going to be a breakthrough. I'm holding on to that. But it still sucks. It's not fun. It's sucky.
What would you say to that? 2 years of frustration.
2 years of frustration, Rob.
I would say step into a journey of deeper exploration and or finding some way to mitigate the frustration more quickly. And then I don't know the particulars of that scenario.
Yeah.
Because if you actually went into it further, then we could like pull it apart, unmesh like what's happening. Stepping into wonder, curiosity. Like there's a book that I tell everyone to read. Quantum Revelation, a radical synthesis of spirituality and science, or science and spirituality, by Paul Levy.
Write that down.
Quantum Revelation by Paul Levy. It is
Okay.
a phenomenal book. It's meaty. It'll probably take you a while. I've read it once, and now I'm actually going back through it, and I'm listening to it on Audible, but I've got the book there in hand as well. So
Yeah,
it's
during the visual, the audible, I like it.
it's like story time for Rob.
Mm-hmm.
There was a part, I was listening to it on the plane when we were flying back from LA. I'm paraphrasing it here, but essentially he's talking about like the more that I have fallen in love with the quantum and want to know more about it, the quantum like is falling in love with me and then wants to provide more opportunities for me to learn about the quantum. And for your listeners, like, am I talking about some wackadoo scientific theory? Yes, it's actually not wackadoo. Is it metaphysical? Yes, it's both. It's metaphysical and it's quantum. It's opposite sides of the same coin. They're all pointing in the same direction. But if you actually just tap into the magic, tap into the unknown, be okay with the unknown, because so many people are afraid of the unknown, that's what the quantum is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Jen had said, like releasing control.
Let, lean, learn.
Let, lean, learn. Let is the first one. Where can people find you and Gary and the Journeymen Collective if they want to connect?
We have a brilliant website, www.thejourneymencollective.com, all one word. We're also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and I think YouTube. We have a few things on YouTube, but basically Instagram.
You're on YouTube now.
Yeah. Instagram, LinkedIn, our website, and there's a lot of resources on our website. Read about it. If you're ready to shift your own shite and get on with life in a new way,
Call me.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining Unsuccessful.
On the podcast where we help you.
Unsuck your successful.
Because ultimately,
You suck.
and so do we, but that's okay.
and if Gary was here, he would definitely have something smart and quip to say with respect to everything that sucks.
Keep at it, because just
That's
as life
awesome.
sucks, we take the suck out of success.
We don't even know what our tagline is at this point.
get it wrong every time.
Yeah.
Next week on Unsuccessful, we're sitting down with the incredibly honest and wise Crystal Knoll, serial entrepreneur, author of The Stop Method, foster care survivor, a real-life example of what it means to rise again and again. Our conversation started with a vulnerable Instagram post about losing clients, cash flow drying up, and crying 1,000 tears, even as a seasoned business owner. We talk about the grief that comes with success, the emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship, and why transparency is one of the most powerful things you can offer your community. You do not want to miss this one. Hit follow, turn on those notifications, and get ready to be reminded that you're never as alone as you think you are. And as always, this is Unsuccessful, the podcast where we help you suck just a little bit less. See you next time.